AITA for uninviting my sister from my wedding after discovering she's with my ex? Hi Reddit, throw away for obvious reasons. 29F. Never thought I'd be that person airing out family drama online, but here we are. My wedding's in 2 months. I should be up to my ears in cake tastings, color swatches, and cheesy Pinterest boards. Instead, I'm a walking anxiety attack, hiding in my car because my hands won't stop shaking and I have no idea how I'm supposed to look my sister in the eye ever again. Let me set the stage. My ex, Mark, 31M, and I dated for 5 years, my entire 20s basically. We were college sweethearts who grew up together, survived job losses, deaths in the family, and that year when our apartment flooded and we lived with his mom. Mark was my first for everything. It wasn't always perfect, but I thought he was the one, until he wasn't. We broke up 2 years ago. He said he felt stuck. I said I needed more. It was messy, ugly crying, months of going no contact, blocking, unblocking, you get it. But eventually, I healed. I met Jamie, 32M, the most patient, funny, gentle man I've ever known. He proposed last winter under our favorite tree at the park. I said yes before he finished asking. My little sister Emily, 26F, has always been my best friend. She was my maid of honor, my secret keeper, my biggest cheerleader through everything. Our group chats were filled with wedding memes, ideas for my bachelorette, and her insistence that the playlist must have at least one Taylor Swift song. If you'd told me a month ago I'd consider cutting her out of my life, let alone my wedding, I'd have laughed in your face. I never imagined betrayal would come from inside my own family. It started as a random Tuesday night. I'd just gotten home from my dress fitting, feeling that warm, fluttery excitement you get when something actually looks better than you imagined, and decided to drop by my parents' place for dinner. Emily was supposed to join us. When she texted she'd be a little late, I didn't think much of it. Dinner was the usual chaos. Dad complaining about traffic, Mom fussing over the roast, me showing off blurry phone photos of my dress. Emily breezed in almost an hour later, cheeks flushed, hair a little windblown. She barely looked at me, which was weird. Usually she'd be all over my dress updates. After dinner, I went to grab my coat from the front hall. That's when I heard her phone buzz on the table. Old habits die hard. I glanced at the screen. On my way home. Last night was amazing. Miss you already. Red heart, the name attached. Mark. At first, my brain just stalled. Mark? As in my Mark? It had to be some other Mark, right? I mean, sure, they'd met a handful of times when we dated, but they were never close. My stomach dropped. I tried to steady my hands as I scrolled up, just one message, just to be sure I was imagining things. I wasn't. There were photos, selfies of the two of them at a bar, another of Emily curled up on his couch, both grinning. Flirty texts. Him calling her M. Her calling him babe. For a split second, I honestly thought I might pass out. The room spun. My throat felt tight, like I couldn't breathe. I dropped her phone as she walked in. Our eyes met. Something in her face changed. Guilt. Fear. I don't know. But I knew. In that instant, everything I thought I knew about my sister shattered. There's no manual for how to react when your sister is dating your ex. I just stood there, frozen, staring at Emily, her phone still buzzing on the table between us. My heart hammered so loud I could barely hear myself think. She opened her mouth, closed it, then whispered, "Let's talk outside." We stepped out onto the porch, the cool air biting at my arms. I tried to steady my breathing, but my voice came out shaky. "How long, Em?" I asked. I could see her debating whether to lie, but then her shoulders slumped. 6 months, she said, barely above a whisper. It just happened. I didn't mean for it to, I swear. I felt a hot rush of anger. You didn't mean for it? He's my ex, Emily. My first everything. You knew how much that breakup wrecked me. She started to cry, reaching for my hand, but I pulled away. I was going to tell you, I promise. I thought you'd hate me. I didn't want to ruin things. For a moment, I actually pitied her. I could see the little sister who used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms, clutching my hand, convinced I could keep her safe. But now, all I could see was betrayal. I don't even know who you are right now, I said. Do Mom and Dad know? She shook her head. No, no one knows. I told Mark not to come to any family stuff until I talked to you. The urge to scream, to throw something, to just run was overwhelming. But instead, I just nodded numbly. I need to go. She pleaded with me to stay, but I couldn't. I got in my car and drove, sobbing so hard I had to pull over. I kept replaying every memory, every secret, every sleepover, every pep talk, wondering if any of it had been real. The next few days were a blur of shock and misery. I ghosted every group chat, ignored Emily's texts, and even skipped Sunday brunch at my parents', which, in our family, is practically a cardinal sin. Jamie noticed I was off, but I couldn't bring myself to explain. I just told him I needed space, that there was drama with Emily, and he respected it, but I could see the worry in his eyes. It didn't take long for the truth to spill. Emily showed up at my apartment unannounced, mascara smudged, clutching a coffee as a peace offering. Jamie let her in before I could say no. She started in with apologies the second she saw me, voice trembling. Please, let me explain. I didn't want this to hurt you. I love you. You're my sister. I cut her off. If you loved me, you wouldn't be with him. Out of all the people in the world, why Mark? Jamie just stood back, silent but protective. Emily tried to make her case. She and Mark just clicked. It started with drinks as friends. He understood her in ways no one else did. She hadn't meant to fall for him. She tried to resist. She looked so raw, so desperate for forgiveness that, for a second, I almost caved. But I couldn't. Not after everything. You should have told me the second you caught feelings, I said. Instead, you hid it. For 6 months. She sobbed. I was scared. I didn't want to lose you. That's when Jamie stepped in, voice calm but firm. You can't have it both ways, Em. You can't date her ex and expect everything to stay the same. She started to argue, but I'd already retreated into myself, exhausted by the emotional tug-of-war. That night, Jamie held me while I cried, whispering that he was on my side, no matter what happened with my family. Word spread faster than I thought possible. By Monday, my phone was blowing up with calls from my parents. Mom was the first to get through. Honey, can we talk? Emily's here, and she's a mess. She told us everything. We're family. We have to get through this together. Dad took a different approach, quieter but still insistent. You and Em have always been close. Don't throw that away over a man. Mark's in the past. Focus on your future, with Jamie. It hurt, hearing them tiptoe around the actual betrayal, like my pain was just a phase I'd outgrow. Suddenly, every family chat was laced with awkward silences and forced cheer. Mom begged me to forgive, to remember what really matters. She hinted that holding a grudge would only taint the happiest day of your life. Even some of my friends were divided. My oldest friend Liz was furious on my behalf. That's a hard boundary. Screw anyone who says otherwise. Others weren't so sure. It's messy, but love is complicated. One of my bridesmaids texted, "Don't let this destroy your family." Isn't it just as hard for Emily? I started to question myself. Was I overreacting? Was I really going to let this blow up my family right before my wedding? Every call, every conversation, felt like a tug-of-war between protecting my own heart and being the good daughter who always put family first. Jamie was my only safe space. He held me through the breakdowns and reminded me that I had a right to be angry, that boundaries are not the same as bitterness, but the pressure from everyone else. It was suffocating. And it forced me to face the one question I'd been avoiding. Was I really ready to let Emily stand beside me on my wedding day, pretending none of this had happened? I lay awake at night, turning everything over in my head. Every time I pictured Emily in her bridesmaid's dress, smiling for photos, I felt sick. It wasn't just the betrayal, though that was bad enough. It was how everyone seemed to expect me to swallow it for the sake of family unity. Like my pain was an inconvenience, not a wound. Jamie could see I was unraveling. One night, as we sat at the kitchen table going over the seating chart, he gently reached over and took my hand. "You don't owe anyone your peace, not even your family," he said. "This is your day. If having her there feels wrong, that's all you need to know." It sounds so simple when someone says it out loud, but I was terrified. I kept thinking about Christmas mornings, birthdays, all the moments Emily and I had been inseparable. Was I really going to blow that up over a guy I hadn't even loved in years? But then the other voice, the one that remembered every night I'd cried to her about Mark, every time she'd sworn she'd always have my back, kept whispering. She knew exactly what she was doing. I tried to talk it through with my mom again. She started out supportive, but quickly shifted. Honey, this is just a blip. You and your sister have something special. Don't let a man ruin that. If you uninvite her, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. What kind of message does that send? It was like being gaslit by my own mother. I hung up feeling guilty and angrier than ever. Emily texted that night. Just 3 words. Please forgive me. But I couldn't. Not yet. I knew I had to choose. Protect myself, or keep playing peacemaker for everyone else's comfort. I kept hoping something would magically fix itself. Like Emily would realize what she'd done, Mark would dump her, or I'd just wake up and not care anymore. But the days ticked by, and the wedding grew closer. Every detail I'd once been excited for started to feel tainted. My dreams of sisterly champagne toasts and inside jokes during photo shoots were replaced with dread. The final straw came during a wedding planning lunch with my bridesmaids. Emily showed up, acting like nothing had happened, chatty, smiling, eager to help pick out favors. I could see Liz glaring at her across the table, but the others just went along, pretending everything was normal. I felt invisible in my own life, like I was screaming into a soundproof room. That night, I broke down in front of Jamie. I can't do this, I sobbed. I can't stand up there and pretend everything's fine. I can't have her in my wedding photos, knowing what she's done. He pulled me close, brushing tears from my cheeks. Then don't, he said simply. You get to decide what your boundaries are, not anyone else. If it was anyone else but your sister, would you hesitate? His words settled in my bones. If it was a friend, a coworker, hell, even a cousin, I wouldn't have thought twice. The only reason I was hesitating was because of the blood we shared. But love and loyalty are earned, not automatic. I sat down that night and wrote Emily a letter. I told her I loved her, but I couldn't have her stand beside me on my wedding day. That her choices had consequences, and this was one of them. Hitting send was the hardest thing I've ever done. The next day, Emily showed up at my apartment. She was crying before I even opened the door, clutching the letter in her shaking hands. You're really uninviting me? She choked out, voice raw with disbelief. After everything we've been through, I stood my ground, even though I felt like my insides were splitting apart. Emily, I need to do this for myself. I can't pretend nothing happened. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. She begged, pleaded, promised it was real, with Mark, that she never meant to hurt me, that she'd do anything to make it right, except, apparently, break up with him. When she realized I wouldn't budge, her hurt twisted into anger. You're so selfish. You'd throw away your own sister over some guy you broke up with years ago? What's wrong with you? I wanted to scream, to list every sleepless night, every time she lied to my face, every reminder that it wasn't about Mark, it was about trust. But I kept my voice steady. You could have told me, Em. You chose him over me. Actions have consequences. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the pictures rattled. Minutes later, my phone lit up with calls and texts from my parents. Mom was furious. How could I do this to my own flesh and blood? Dad tried to be the peacemaker, but I could tell he sided with Mom. It's just a wedding, he said. Don't let this tear the family apart. But I wasn't backing down. For once, I chose myself. That night, as Jamie held me, I realized I'd never felt more heartbroken or more certain about a decision in my life. The fallout was brutal. My parents threatened not to come if Emily wasn't invited, but Jamie gently told them we'd love to have them, under our boundaries. Mom cried on the phone, guilt tripping me about family unity. Dad kept urging me to reconsider, saying, one day you'll regret this. You girls only have each other. Even extended family started weighing in, with texts ranging from awkward support to outright blame. A few friends dropped out of the bridal party, saying they couldn't take sides. Liz and a handful of true friends stuck with me, defending my choice in the face of gossip and passive-aggressive Facebook posts. My heart ached every time I thought about the empty seat at the head table, but Jamie was my rock, reminding me why we were doing this in the first place. Wedding planning became less about floral arrangements and more about emotional triage. I deleted a dozen family members from the guest list after they called me cruel or dramatic. At night, I'd cry on Jamie's shoulder, mourning the family I thought I had and questioning if I'd made everything worse. But beneath the pain, there was a strange peace. I stopped living for other people's comfort. I focused on the people who showed up, really showed up, for me. As the RSVP deadline passed, I felt the loss of my parents' and sister's presence like a missing limb, but I also felt a fierce kind of pride. I'd drawn a line, finally, and for the first time, I didn't apologize for it. Still, I couldn't help wondering, was I strong or just alone? And what would my wedding look like with my family on the other side of that line? The wedding day arrived with bittersweet clarity. There were moments I expected to break down, walking down the aisle without my parents, seeing the empty space where Emily should have been, the absence of childhood laughter echoing through the room. But what surprised me was how much love still filled the space. Jamie's unwavering support, friends who stayed, and even relatives who quietly told me they understood, who hugged me tight and whispered, "You did the right thing." Our vows felt even more sacred, surrounded by the people who chose to be there. There was grief, yes, but also gratitude, for boundaries, for honesty, for starting my marriage with the courage to demand respect. After the wedding, family dynamics stayed strained. My parents sent a card. No return address, just a scribbled, "Wish you happiness." Emily blocked me on everything. Sometimes the silence hurts more than the fighting ever did, but I also know I can finally breathe. I'm not constantly scanning the room for the next betrayal, not twisting myself up to make everyone else comfortable. To anyone reading this who's faced a similar betrayal, I'll say this: you have a right to your boundaries, even if it costs you people you never thought you'd lose. Blood is not a free pass to trample on your heart. Loyalty matters. And sometimes, the family you build, friends, partners, those who truly see you, is the one that deserves a seat at your table. I hope one day my sister and I can find our way back to each other, but I know now that forgiveness can't be forced or faked. For now, I'm choosing myself, and I hope you do too. Thanks for listening, Reddit.